You are listening to Areva Martin in real time. I'm Dr. Nii-Quartelai Quartey filling in for Areva Martin today. This is KBLA Talk 1580. And I'm in touch, and so you be in touch. I am typically hosting a More Perfect Union at 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern each day, where we give you sort of a digest of the political news that's trending. Well, right here on Areva Martin in real time, we are picking up that thread. There's lots of news afoot, particularly on college campuses, and we'll get to that in just a moment. But I would be remiss if I didn't begin this show remembering the life and service of Donald Payne. The six-term congressman from New Jersey has died at the age of 65. Representative Donald Payne Jr. of Newark, an immensely likable, low-key, but effective, progressive six-term congressman from New Jersey with a passion for social justice and constituent service, died today. He was 65. You might remember that Representative Payne suffered a heart attack on April 6th and had been unconscious and on a ventilator since then at the Newark Beth Israel Medical Center. He battled a series of health issues in recent years, including diabetes, high blood pressure, and kidney issues that required regular dialysis. Payne's father, Representative Donald Payne Sr., was a trailblazer in New Jersey politics when he was elected to Congress back in 1988, the winner of an open seat after twice challenging Representative Peter Rodino in the Democratic primary in a Black majority district. He became New Jersey's first ever Black representative. And so our thoughts are with the family and constituents of Representative Donald Payne Jr. Moving along to other news today, President Biden signs Ukraine aid, Israel funding, and TikTok crackdown into law. Yeah, that's all in one bill. Can you believe that? NBC News is reporting that President Joe Biden today signed critical aid to Ukraine and enacted a provision that could lead to a nationwide ban on TikTok. The Senate passed the long-awaited foreign aid package on Tuesday, 79 to 18 votes. 15 Republicans and 3 Democrats voted against the legislation. The House passed the package on Saturday. Biden today acknowledged that the time that it took for the bill to gain the bipartisan support that it needed to pass. He also didn't mince words when he condemned Russian President Vladimir Putin while stressing the urgency of providing aid to Ukraine, saying that in the next few hours, the U.S. will begin sending equipment to the country from its own stockpiles and then will replace those stockpiles with new American-made products that include Patriot missiles and artillery shells. Also here in Washington, D.C. Today, the Supreme Court wrestles with abortion clash over emergency treatment for pregnant women. The Supreme Court today appeared divided as it grappled with whether provisions of Idaho's near total abortion ban unlawfully conflicts with federal law aimed at ensuring that certain standards for emergency medical care for patients, including pregnant women. NBC News is reporting that some conservative justices who have a 6-3 majority appeared skeptical about a lawsuit filed by the Biden administration arguing that state bans restrict potentially life-saving treatments for women suffering complications during pregnancy. And so this is an issue that will indeed continue to animate voters across the country, and rightfully so. Also in news today, Reggie Bush will get back his Heisman, his 2005 Heisman Trophy that was forfeited by the former USC star. We are going to take a break, and we're going to come back and we're going to dig more into the headlines when we come forward. You're listening to A More Perfect Union. Psych. You're listening to Areva Martin in real time. Hope you're paying attention on KBLA Talk 1580.
You're listening to Areva Martin in real time on KBLA Talk 1580.
It's time for California Community College's Black Student Success Week. This week-long event, held April 22nd through the 26th, is an opportunity to focus on innovative approaches to ensuring Black and African American students succeed in their educational pursuits. Black Student Success Week 2024, building a better future together. The urgency is now. For more information, visit blackstudentsuccess.com. That's blkstudentsuccess.com.
Sorry, but we actually have a wait list for our Monstera.
Shaw's greenhouse is really bringing in the green.
We can't keep snake plants in stock.
She needs a construction manager to build on her roots and grow.
We could add a whole section for ferns. Here we'd have dahlias, dahlias, and more dahlias.
Indeed can help her hire great people fast.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do. You can schedule and conduct virtual interviews all from your employer dashboard. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get $75 towards your first sponsored job. Terms and conditions apply.
Ew, gotta get rid of this old Backstreet Boys t-shirt.
Tell me why.
Because it stinks, boys.
Tell me why.
I've washed it so many times, but the odor won't come out.
Tell me why.
No, you tell me why I can't get rid of this odor.
Have you tried Downy Rinse and Refresh? It doesn't just cover up odors, it helps remove them.
Wow, it worked, guys.
Yeah.
Downy Rinse and Refresh removes more odor in one wash than the leading value detergent in 3 washes. Find it wherever you buy laundry products.
Environmental justice is racial justice.
Environmental justice is social justice.
This is KBLA Talk 1580. KBLA Talk 1580.
We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. Stay Housed LA has the resources you need to know your rights and the legal support to back them up. The COVID-19 pandemic has cost people their jobs and livelihoods. This has left an estimated 1/3 of households not being able to make rent and facing losing their homes. This is a fear no one in our community should have to face. You have rights, though, and Stay Housed LA is here to help. Stay Housed LA is a partnership between the County of Los Angeles, the City of Los Angeles, and local community and legal service providers. Together, they provide tenants with the information and support needed to exercise their rights so they can remain safely in their homes. Find out more about your rights by participating in a virtual tenant workshop. Get the legal assistance you need. Find additional resources in Los Angeles County and the City of Los Angeles. Stay connected to Stay Housed LA County for updates. This and more at stayhousedla.org. Stay connected to Stay Housed LA for updates. This and more at stayhousedla.org. That's stayhousedla.org. Or call their hotline at 213-694-0040. We've got your Black with a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
You are listening and watching Areva Martin in real time. But surprise, surprise, I'm not Areva Martin. I'm Dr. Nii-Quartelai Quartey, filling in for my colleague Areva Martin. And we are digging into a whole lot of headlines. And in just a moment, I'll invite our guest for the hour on to join me in helping to make it make sense. But first, in the headlines, Reggie Bush will get back his 2005 Heisman Trophy that was forfeited by the former USC star. ESPN is reporting that the Heisman Trust, which administers the annual award for college football's most outstanding player, is set to announce that Bush's trophy from the 2005 season will be officially reinstated and returned to him, given the, quotes, fundamental changes in college athletics, including the ability for college athletes to now profit off their name, image, and likeness. Bush was at the center of a pay-for-play scandal, if you might remember, during his time at USC, which led to massive NCAA penalties for the school and the forfeiture of the trophy. According to ESPN, Bush will immediately be invited to the annual Heisman Trophy ceremony, as all former winners are. And so I remember it well, like it was yesterday. I am a proud USC alum, even though these days, USC is experiencing some significant challenges, and that's putting it mildly. But this was something that rocked the campus. It certainly rocked the world of a lot of supporters of USC's football team. And what a difference change in policy makes. He'll get his trophy back, and we will likely see more college athletes really profiting from their name, image, and likeness. That was a fight that had been had for a long time. And so this is just the latest sign of the times. And speaking of college campuses, Columbia University has been heavy in the headlines recently, as Columbia says encampments will scale down and police clashes at more campuses continue. Columbia University announced just today that students had agreed to scale down their encampment as protesters across the nation pressed their demands for an end to the civilian casualties in Gaza that have tested the American public's historically ironclad support for Israel. Columbia student protesters, meanwhile, issued a statement saying that the school had made, quotes, a written commitment and concession not to call the NYPD or the National Guard, calling the progress, quotes, an important victory for students. Rallies and encampments have sprung up on campuses from California to Massachusetts just this week, sometimes prompting police intervention, as was the case today at the University of Texas in Austin, and of course at the University of Southern California. The protesters are calling for an end to the U.S. military support for Israel and for eliminating Israeli investments. And I know somebody here that knows a thing or two about campus climate, and I want to invite our guest for the hour on to join me, Dr. Nii-Quartelai Quartey, over at the University of Maryland. She's an associate professor at the University of Maryland. She is no stranger to Areva Martin in real time. We've had her on before, and we are thankful that she has chosen to join us again to help us make it make sense. Dr. Quartey, welcome back.
Thank you for having me back.
Let's dig into it. There is so much to dig through in terms of what's happening on college campuses. You just heard me talk about the latest from Columbia University, and I didn't even include the part where there will be a rare visit by House Speaker Mike Johnson to the campus, potentially escalating tensions at Columbia. We know right now that the Washington Post is reporting that House Speaker Mike Johnson and his Republican colleagues, they were met with boos, laughs, and pro-Palestinian chants after parachuting into one center of the roiling protest movement against Israel's war against Hamas. That's Columbia University in New York City. Mm-hmm. Johnson and a group of Republican lawmakers, they landed on campus where tensions are high between university administration and students who have erected pro-Palestinian encampments. And he's demanded that Columbia's president resign for failing to quickly dismantle the encampments, and in their view, for not doing enough to ensure that the Jewish people on campus feel safe. Is there any merit to Speaker Johnson's call for the resignation of the president of Columbia University?
Well, I would say in part, but not for the reasons he cites. I think any university president that calls law enforcement on students exercising a constitutional right to protest is reason to resign. I think this is all grandstanding and showboating. I mean, these are people who regularly attack university campuses, and they have been using elite universities, all of which are helmed by women, right? If you know, they haven't gone after every university president, just university presidents helmed by women and elite universities in particular, to try to shake these leaders down over essentially an issue that, quite frankly, we have yet to define. I think one of the things that has sort of led up to this, and this is not to suggest that anyone's life or identity should be attacked or used as political fodder, but certainly one of the things that has happened on Columbia's campus, and partly why we have this breakdown, is not just people's real ethical opposition to what is happening to the Palestinian people in Gaza, but even real questions about what constitutes anti-Semitism. You and I both know that when we're talking about having a conversation, academic or otherwise, we have to define the terms. So I can't say that something exists and then not tell you how we know we found it. And I think what Columbia's position has been is that there is anti-Semitism on campus, but they have not actually named what constitutes anti-Semitism. And I think for some of the students and the faculty and even the staff who are at these encampments right now, part of the fight is not whether we think Jewish people have a right to exist. I think most people of good conscience and good faith, and most of the people who are out there protesting would say that is absolutely true, that Jewish people have a right to life, have a sanctity, right? Just as every other person does. But to protest the actions of the government of Israel is not tantamount to anti-Semitism. And I think we have, in the media and other places, done a very poor job of saying what this anti-Semitism that is allegedly on the rise on campuses actually is. And it looks like everything that is considered protest, uncomfortable, or is considered to be an affront to the state of Israel is what constitutes anti-Semitism. And I think at least for Columbia, had months ago, they had really had these conversations and really tried to drill down on what constitutes that. That could have at least, I think, not necessarily stopped what is happening, but we at least had a common basis for agreement or disagreement. And we don't even have that yet.
Well, we also know that the Washington Post is reporting that House Republicans, who, to your point, have long accused elite colleges and universities of skewing left and pursuing a quote unquote woke agenda that tramples on parental rights. How much of what's happening now is sort of, the Republican Party's greatest hits in terms of, all things being against all things diversity, equity, and inclusion, all things that are about raising consciousness, raising awareness around injustice. How much of this call for the president of Columbia University to resign is just an outgrowth of that, versus a legitimate failure by the Columbia president to keep Jewish students safe and maintain an environment where there can be a healthy exchange of sometimes competing ideals and ideas that don't devolve into folks fearing for their safety.
Yeah, I think this is a really hard one. I mean, far be it from me to tell a Jewish person when to fear for their safety or not. I certainly wouldn't want anybody to do it to me. But I think it's interesting that we've taken this particular moment to decide that, one, we care about anti-Semitism, right? I mean, it's not as if Republicans have ever really cared about the well-being and safety of minoritized identities. And two, that it is now incumbent on university presidents to pass some sort of anti-Semitism litmus test to be considered worthy. I mean, these are the very same institutions that not very long ago did not want Jewish people on campus. I mean, part of the reason that we have the founding of the state of Israel is rooted in anti-Semitism in the US, in Europe, and other places. And that's not to suggest that Israel shouldn't exist. I'm just saying that this is not a totally altruistic project. In the same way, this is not a totally altruistic project. We have to remember, just a few short years ago, the Unite the Right rally that happened at the campus or in and around the campus of the University of Virginia in Charlottesville, which led to the death of Heather Heyer, where there were Confederate battle flags and people walking with swastikas and neo-Nazi symbols. And you heard not a peep of anybody, not only talking about the safety of Jewish students in and around Charlottesville, but Black students, Asian students, and other people who were threatened by this. These people actually said, "You will not replace us," and called Jews by name. Yet there was no wringing of hands. And we're not talking about ancient history. This is a few short years ago. So I think it's really interesting now. There's all of this concern about Jewish students. And I'm not saying that none of it is legitimate. But if we're really going to talk about campus safety, then we need to talk about campus safety for all, because in the same way that we are going to talk about anti-Semitism, we need to be talking about Islamophobia. We need to be talking about transphobia on campus. We need to be talking about anti-Blackness on campus. We need to be talking about misogyny on campus. There are a lot of people who feel unsafe on university campuses for numerous and sundry reasons. It just so happens that in this particular moment, it's tied to these larger geopolitical concerns that are ripe for this kind of political theater. Because again, if you really cared about university campuses, why are you only focused on private Ivy League institutions? They're not the majority of university campuses. They're certainly not the arbiters of what most of our lives look like on university campuses. That's why I say I am not convinced that this is based in any sincerity. At the same time, I do think all students have the right to be on campus and feel safe, and sometimes confronting opinions that are counter to yours are not comfortable. But that also doesn't mean that you're not safe. It means you're uncomfortable. And I think we have to be clear about what that means. And I'm not saying that all conversations are productive. I don't believe that. And I think we've gotten into this chronic, really toxic whataboutism in a lot of spaces that we have to entertain all kinds of ideas. But at the same time that we're talking about anti-Semitism on campus, we can't play footsies with the Richard Spencers of the world and invite them to campuses, right? And the David Horowitz of the world and invite them to campuses and have these people who think these really horrible things about all kinds of people. And then say, but only this group of people's discomfort gets to rise to the level of a national incident. I think we are talking about out of both sides of our mouths on this particular issue.
And speaking of talking out of both sides of our mouths, there's certainly enough evidence out there where we see, Republicans in some states like Florida passing really draconian laws that are intended to scuttle and dismantle diversity, equity, inclusion programs, to defund training around diversity, equity, and inclusion. We're seeing that. We just saw in Tennessee recently the state legislature sort of took action, and the governor took action to remove the board of Tennessee State University, historically Black college university, and reinstall new board members, some of which are very sympathetic to the MAGA movement. And so, we're seeing, ultra conservatives, sort of take on, sort of reshaping colleges and universities in their image, in the image of their movement. I, like you, I'm also a university professor. And I take that responsibility seriously. And I think we have a serious problem if universities cease being forums where we can vigorously debate ideas and ideals and theories about the world. When folks are silenced, whether we're talking about students or faculty or valedictorians, commencement speakers, when folks are silenced and not able to participate equally and, dare I say, equitably, given the challenges around the world, we have a serious problem. And that's not an HBCU problem. That is not an Ivy League school problem. That's not a public college or university problem. That is a crisis of our American ideals, a crisis of the First Amendment. And so in about a minute, I want to give you a chance to share how folks on your university campus at the University of Maryland have been reacting to this news that's trending, and what might we all be able to learn from how you all are addressing this at the University of Maryland?
Okay.
How are you all addressing it?
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't realize. I thought we were going to break. I mean, it's been really variable. I will say I have a lot of Jewish students. I have a lot of Muslim students. I have a lot of students of conscience. And one of the things that I have noticed that even where there are differences, there is a willingness for everyone to tolerate, even if they don't agree with one another. And I think what I'm really seeing from a lot of my students is just tired. They're tired. I think this has been a really difficult year. I have had students who've lost family members in Gaza. I've had students who've lost family members in Israel. I've had students who've sustained this loss in a very personal way. So it angers me when I see people using that very real pain for political purposes. I do think the university has really had a hands-off approach and allowed students the ability to express themselves. And I do think, and one of the things I am very proud of the University of Maryland and our students, is that they have found a way to disagree and engage in a way that has not led to violence or open name calling. I'm not saying it's a panacea. It certainly isn't. But I think students are sharing their solidarity in numerous and sundry ways, whether it's engaging with the Hillel, whether it's engaging with the Justice for Palestine groups. Everybody is connecting to their communities. And I think people are weighing or leaning on those communities more heavily, especially now. It's Passover for many of our Jewish students who are observing. Ramadan just ended. So I think this is a really important period. It's also the end of the semester. So this is just stressful more generally. I think more than anything, our students are stressed and dismayed that so many of our institutions have largely turned their backs on them and treated them as enemies, as opposed to what we want them to be, which is engaged young people who are figuring it out. It doesn't mean they get it right all the time, but it does mean we don't want to shut them down and shut them out. And I've been very pleased thus far with our university's response to students on both sides of this issue and allowing them that space.
Well, when we come forward, we're talking about what's happening on college campuses across the country. And then there is some breaking news here. Trump's 2020 fake electors have been charged with state crimes in Arizona. We're going to get Dr. Niambi Carter's reaction to that and more news that is trending. You're listening to Areva Martin in real time on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm Dr. Nii-Quartelai Quartey filling in for Areva. More when we come forward.
Right time. More of Areva Martin in real time when we come forward.
I'm Tyreek Wynn. Here's the latest on the Black Information Network. Donald Payne, a black six-term congressman from New Jersey, has passed away. The 65-year-old Newark Democrat died after suffering a heart attack earlier this month. The congressman suffered a series of health issues through the years. The Florida Department of Law Enforcement wants to suspend Black Broward County Sheriff Gregory Toney. The state agency on Monday asked the judge to suspend Toney for 6 months. Toney is accused of lying on his driver's license application when he claimed it was never suspended. The FDLE says that's an act of moral turpitude, and Toney broke the public's trust. The first trailer is being released for Zoe, Kravitz's directional debut, Blink Twice. The film follows two friends charmed by a tech billionaire played by Channing Tatum and are taken to his private island for a getaway. Things take a turn into a life or death situation, and the women must find a way to escape the island. That's the latest. I'm Tyreek Wynn on your home for 24/7 News, the Black Information Network.
Accident back in Mid-City remains blocking the second lane from the left of the 10 East before La Brea Avenue, with over 45 minutes of heavy traffic flow coming from Lincoln Boulevard. East LA's 60 West before Indiana Street. Continue to drive carefully as two right lanes are blocked with a car up the embankment, and CHP is trying to run a break to clear from Garfield. Heavy traffic flow continues from the 710. Continue to be advised that Vermont Avenue in both directions between Exposition Boulevard and West Jefferson are closed due to the USC protests. And right now it's going to be a while, causing stop traffic in the area, so please drive with caution.
Can your roof handle extreme weather? If you have leaks or a roof that is 20 years old or more, go to localroofs.com to schedule a free roof checkup and estimate. Get a new roof for as low as $198 per month on approved credit. Restrictions apply. Go to localroofs.com.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
It's a happy day for supporters of former USC running back Reggie Bush. The Heisman Trust, the organization that oversees the Heisman Trophy Award, announced Wednesday that they are reinstating Bush's Heisman Trophy. Bush won the Heisman in 2005. He was forced to give up the award in 2010 after the NCAA imposed major sanctions on the USC football program. Bush was accused of accepting improper benefits from two sports agents, benefits that included money, a rent-free home for his family in San Diego, and travel expenses. The Heisman Trust cited the enormous changes in the landscape of college athletics as part of their reasoning for returning Bush's Heisman Trophy. The decision allows USC to display a replica of Bush's Heisman Trophy in Heritage Hall, the building that houses the athletics department on the USC campus. USC removed the replica in 2010. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
Yeah, y'all, come on. Pick up the drum. At KBLA Talk 1580, we fight the power every day.
Yeah, gotta give us what we want. Gotta give us what we need. Hey.
I listen to KBLA and I love the commercials. I know what the commercials mean. I also, if I'm looking and trying to figure something out, I need something to talk to me that might hit me. And it happens on TV because, you know, every time they show a sporting event, they got the pharmaceutical companies back to back telling people how to fix the sickness on the same stuff that they sell them. So we get it.
Yep, we get it too, Chuck D. And that's why at KBLA Talk 1580, we don't black down.
Drop it! Our freedom of speech is freedom of death. We got to fight the powers that be. Fight the power! Fight the power!
KBLA Talk 1580.
We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580 believes in community empowerment through the arts. Dia Chucha Central Cultural is on a mission to transform community in the Northeast San Fernando Valley and beyond through ancestral knowledge, the arts, literacy, and creative engagement. The Northeast San Fernando Valley has a population of about 500,000, the size of the city of Oakland, yet it has no bookstores, art galleries, or full-fledged cultural spaces until Dia Chuchas opened its doors in 2001. Founded by renowned poet and activist Luis Rodriguez, Dia Chuchas Cultural Center provides a year-round free or low-cost arts and literacy bilingual intergenerational programming in mural painting, music, dance, writing, visual arts, healing art sessions, and healing talking circles. Activities also include Mexica, Aztec dance, indigenous cosmology, philosophy, and 2 weekly open mic nights, one in Spanish, the other in English. In addition, they host author readings, film screenings, and art exhibits. To express yourself, heal yourself, attend an event, or volunteer, please visit www.diachucha.org. That's TIACHUCHA.org. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
We've got a lot to talk about.
Hi, I'm Zoe Williams, aka the Voice of Reason, encouraging you to join me weekdays from 7 to 9 p.m. for the world's most intriguing relationship radio roundtable. Every night, I facilitate and encourage our loyal listeners to participate in the most engaging relationship discussions you'll hear anywhere. So make it a point to rendezvous with me, Zoe Williams, the Voice of Reason, Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Trust me, your relationships will never be the same. The VOR is on fire tonight.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black.
You're listening to Areva Martin in real time. I'm Dr. Nii-Quartelai Quartey, filling in for Areva, and you're listening to KBLA Talk 1580, where we are digging deeper into the headlines. There are so many trending headlines that you need to know. And right before the break, I had shared a little bit of breaking news. We want to dig into that a little bit. Trump's 2020 fake electors have been charged with state crimes in Arizona. NBC News is reporting that a state grand jury in Arizona just today indicted so-called fake electors who backed then President Donald Trump in 2020 following a sprawling investigation into the alleged efforts to overturn Joe Biden's win in the presidential election in the state. 1 month after the 2020 election, 11 Trump supporters convened at the Arizona GOP headquarters in Phoenix to sign a certificate claiming to be Arizona's 11 electors to the Electoral College, though Biden won the state by a little over 10,000 votes, and his electors were certified by state officials. The state Republican Party documented the signing of the certificate in social media posts and sent it to Congress and the National Archive. Among those charged is Kelly Ward, who served as chair of the Arizona GOP during the 2020 election and immediate aftermath. You might remember that she tweeted on January 6th, after the attack on the U.S. Capitol, quote, "Congress is adjourned. Send the elector choice back to the legislature." Ward was a consistent propagator of false claims that Arizona's election results were rigged. Others charged include state legislators Anthony Kern and Jake Hoffman, Michael Ward, Kelly Ward's husband, Tyler Bauer, the Republican National Committee's Arizona committeeman and chief operating officer of the Trump-aligned Turning Point USA. We'll get to Turning Point USA in another story in a moment. Greg Safston, the former Arizona GOP executive director. I mean, you know, there are a number of folks that are listed here. The indictment lists Trump as unindicted co-conspirator number one. It also includes redacted names of other people who've been charged in the case but have not yet been served. And so that means that there are folks that we don't quite know about. There are some unconfirmed reports that former chief of staff Mark Meadows may be among the folks indicted. There are also some unconfirmed reports at the moment that former New York City Mayor Rudy Giuliani may be among the folks indicted, though that is unconfirmed at this moment. Dr. Niambi Carter, associate professor at the University of Maryland, what do you make of this breaking news?
Well, look, I mean, I think it's been a long time coming. I mean, we're in another election cycle, and this is, you know, something that happened almost 4 years ago. And I know people think of this as maybe either small potatoes, a political get back, or, you know, maybe even that the attorney general from Arizona is picking on these people. But what these people did was commit fraud. I mean, signing your name, I mean, even calling them something like alternate electors makes it seem like they're legitimate. They were not legitimate. I mean, they tried to subvert an election by submitting a false affidavit to the National Archives and to the federal government as if Donald Trump won the state of Arizona, which he did not. And so I think we have to take that seriously. I know there's a tendency with, I think in this moment, for us to be fatigued by all of these conversations, or even to say, what the hell is the point, right? This system doesn't work anyway. So what? These people did this thing. This is really boneheaded. This is not hygiene, right? Like, these are not, you know, jokes that are a prank and harmless. These people essentially were going to undercut the voters of the state of Arizona. They were simply going to discard the votes of their neighbors. That was the plot. That was the plan, because they didn't like the outcome. So in some respects, I'm like, you know, I wish it would have happened sooner, because for those people who are naysayers who want to just sort of chalk this up to a political fight and not a legitimate violation of federal election law, they're just going to say, well, this is just sour grapes. But, you know, it had to happen. I think it's important that it happens. And I think what people need to understand is that when you are in the orbit of someone like a Donald Trump, who has always managed to kind of wash his hands and move about and let other people sort of do the dirty work and take the fall, whether you're, Michael Cohen or other folks around him, everybody else seems to be going to jail or getting indicted or having their life upended. And he is still allowed to run for president and be the nominee for the Republican Party. I don't know that happens for anyone else. that is not a very wealthy white man who has people who are happy to do his bidding because power, right? Power is really seductive, and being adjacent to power is really seductive. And so, it's probably going to be a lot more of this, right? Of the little person, the low person on the hierarchy, right? That gets sent to jail and sent to prison. I should say prison. They're not going to jail for this. This is a prison case. And get the, felonies in their name while he continues to run for president and do everything he can to put these cases off so he doesn't have to face the consequences of his own actions. But,
and speaking of the folks that are carrying Trump's water, we have confirmed from the Washington Post that those indicted also include former Trump White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows, attorneys Rudy Giuliani, Jenna Ellis, John Eastman, and Christina Bobb, top campaign advisor Boris Efston, and former campaign aide Mike Roman. They are accused of allegedly aiding an unsuccessful strategy to award the state's electoral votes to Trump instead of Biden after the 2020 election. Also charged are the Republicans who signed the paperwork on December 14th, 2020, that falsely purported that Trump was the rightful winner. And I just went over the names of those folks, including the campaign arm of the pro-Trump conservative group Turning Point USA. And so we know that Trump was not charged, but he is described in the indictment as an unindicted co-conspirator. I mean, you could not write a script and get it sold in Hollywood that included the number of plot twists that we have seen in the days after the 2020 election, leading to the transfer of power, and leading up to this very moment where, Donald Trump is the presumptive Republican nominee for president. You could not have written this. Will this latest plot twist in this high stakes saga, will it even matter in this election cycle? Will this stick, being that there are so many charges and allegations and examples of unethical decision making on the part of Trump and his associates? Will this stick? Will this even matter to Republican voters and to the general election voters in November?
I don't think so. I mean, quite frankly, as disappointing as it is, I think there was a time, right? In some ways, it's like we want to go back to a quaint time when, having an affair would have been enough to get you out of the running. But I don't think it'll do anything. I think his diehard supporters are there. And when we look at the number of people who have lined up behind Donald Trump, even the people who were like, I'm reticent to do so, but I'm going to do it. The people who have endorsed him over these last few months, even people he had formally ran against. I don't think this is going to do anything to upset his, trek toward the White House. He has still a lot of power and a lot of sway. People were lining up to get his endorsement, right? The Republican Party is fractured, and I think Donald Trump's rise has demonstrated as much about that party's failures and its disarray as anything else has. And this moment where Donald Trump is still showing that he has, down ballot power, is just going to solidify his sort of this sense that he is untouchable, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So I don't think this will do anything. I think this is going to be a blip on the radar.
Well, we hope that it's more than a blip, but it's also going to be up to voters to make it more than a blip in November. When we come forward more with Dr. Niambi Carter, we are digging into some really hot trending headlines today. You're watching and listening to Areva Martin in real time, only on KBLA Talk 1580.
You're listening to Areva Martin in real time on KBLA Talk 1580.
To help combat climate change, LADWP is helping neighborhoods have better access to electric vehicles by awarding nearly $130 million in EV rebates to customers just like you. From big savings on used EVs to building new charging plazas, LADWP is charging ahead to help all Angelinos experience the benefits of EVs. Get rebates of up to $4,000 for a used EV and $1,750 for a charger. Learn more at ladwp.com/EV. That's ladwp.com/EV. Tips to help improve your credit score in 2024. Establishing credit is an important key to achieving financial health, but building a credit history from scratch can feel challenging since you need credit to build credit. First, what does it mean to build credit? All consumers have a score between 300 and 850. You want your score to be as high as possible as lenders look at your credit score to make loan and credit decisions. A good credit score shows you have a track record of borrowing money responsibly. Remember, it's never too late to build or rebuild your credit. This segment is sponsored by JP Morgan Chase & Company. Hey, LA residents, it's planting season and the perfect time to get shade trees growing around your home. LADWP and City Plants are giving every resident up to 7 free trees. That's right, 7 free trees delivered right to your door. Trees are great for the environment, help improve air quality, and can help you save on your bill when you use less air conditioning to stay cool indoors. Learn more at ladwp.com/free trees. That's ladwp.com/free trees.
You're listening to KBLA Talk 1580, where climate is king.
We used to argue about whose turn it was to clean the gutters, but then I had Leaf Filter gutter protection installed.
Wait, I told you Leaf Filter had free inspections and estimates and a lifetime guarantee.
Meaning we never have to argue about whose turn it is to clean the gutters again.
But I visited leaffilter.com/beacon first.
No, I did.
It doesn't matter who. Visit leaffilter.com/beacon to schedule your free gutter inspection and get up to 30% off today.
See representative for warranty details. Promotion is 20% off plus a 10% senior or military discount. 1 discount per household.
Did you know that feeling sluggish or weighed down could be a sign that your digestive system isn't working at its best? Taking Metamucil every day can help. Metamucil fiber powders help promote your daily digestive health using a plant-based fiber called psyllium. The gelling action of this special fiber traps and removes waste, so you can feel lighter and more energetic. Metamucil, promoting digestive health for a better you. Learn more at metamucil.com. These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. These products are not intended to diagnose, treat.
You are listening to Areva Martin in real time. You're listening and watching Areva Martin in real time. I'm Dr. Nii-Quartelai Quartey. I typically host A More Perfect Union right here on KBLA Talk 1580. You can watch and listen to me weekdays at 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern. And you can always subscribe to A More Perfect Union podcast and never, ever, ever miss an episode. But right now, we are here on Areva Martin in real time, and I'm really enjoying being in conversation with Dr. Niambi Carter, associate professor over at the University of Maryland. Lots happening on college campuses across the country, not just today, but recently. And I don't think they're going to be letting up anytime soon. And you have folks like Kyle Rittenhouse who aren't making matters any easier. We know that USA Today is reporting that Kyle Rittenhouse, not the typical college campus speaker in 2020. You all might remember at the age of 17, he took an AR-15 style rifle to a Black Lives Matter demonstration, and he fired it. And not only did he fired it killing 2 people and injuring a third. Rittenhouse said that he pulled the trigger in self-defense and was acquitted of wrongdoing. He has since penned a book called Acquitted and has set out on a series of college speaking events dubbed the Rittenhouse Recap. He is slated to appear this Thursday at Clemson University in South Carolina. And that's not even the heavy part of it. See, he is a provocative choice for Turning Point. Remember, I was just talking about Turning Point USA?
Mm-hmm.
Turning Point USA, as in the organization that was implicated in the indictment that just came down in Arizona related to the fake electors. Well, that group told USA Today that it isn't a nationally organized tour that Rittenhouse is on, that it's chapters that are independently requesting Rittenhouse. Student chapter leaders told USA Today that Rittenhouse is an important conversation starter. Quotes, I think sometimes you have to be kind of polarizing to pull a crowd. That's what Brady Seymour, president of Turning Point USA's chapter at Kent State University in Ohio, that's what he said. That's what he said. You know, and Rittenhouse's message on his campus tour, you might wonder, his message is that students should be allowed to take up arms, including to fend off, quotes, these Hamas Palestinian terrorists if they invade dormitories. It sparked protests and it's raised questions about free speech and just how far it should be allowed to go. A similar question helped lead to the resignation, you might remember, of the presidents of University of Pennsylvania and Harvard, who stepped down amid fierce criticism. Rittenhouse, in a statement provided by his spokesperson, said his campus appearances are not part of an official tour or book-selling venture, and he's reminding students of their rights. This is what he said. He said, quotes, every American has a constitutional right to bear arms, and it should not be infringed by a college campus. Now, to me, this sounds like a dog whistle. This sounds like Rittenhouse is on a mission to spark yet another culture war. And he is intending to spark a culture war, I believe, around people's right to bear arms on college campuses. And given the vitriol that we're seeing on college campuses, given the heightened tensions that we're seeing, I think the last thing that anybody would feel comfortable seeing, certainly me as a university professor, I wouldn't be comfortable, you know, being on a campus that normalized, you know, folks bearing arms on the campus or in classrooms. How do you feel about that, Dr. Carter?
Well, again, I think this just ties into this larger conversation about campus safety and who gets to be safe and who gets to be protected and what kinds of speech we want to hear and from whom and when. Kyle Rittenhouse gets to, after being acquitted of murdering two people, I don't care whether we say it's self-defense or not, there are two people who are no longer here who have families that are grieving because they were out there protesting the paralyzing shooting of another young person, not very far from them in terms of age. And yet you have this person who decided to take an AR-15 across state lines and defend himself and murder these two young people. So the fact that he gets to come to campus and talk about this under the guise of Turning Point USA, and we know some of the really racist things that Charlie Kirk has said, some of the anti-Black disparaging things that Charlie Kirk has said, yet we are supposed to call Kyle Rittenhouse some sort of free speech defender, and we are supposed to, and by we, I mean Black faculty, Black student, Black staff, and others, right, who are allies, to defend his right to speak on campus and stand there and say that this is a good conscious debate, right? That we are talking about real things because we're trying to get to some understanding. And that's not what this is. He is using universities to get some veneer of credibility, right? Turning Point USA are using universities to get some veneer of credibility for viewpoints and perspectives that quite frankly are antithetical to the intellectual mission of the university. And if we really care about creating safe spaces for all people on campus, a person like a Kyle Rittenhouse, who has murdered two people, does not have a place on that campus, quite frankly. I think it's a very, very thin kind of jab, right? Thinly veiled jab at lots of corners of the university. So I think it's funny that we can protect his right to speech, but the very students that pay tuition on our university campuses are finding themselves being stared down by police, National Guardsmen, being suspended, put out of their housing, being told that they may not graduate, and all kinds of things. But this person gets to come and get a venue to speak when we know what he's done, and these students are merely accused of something.
Dr. Carter, in our remaining minute with you, where can people go to follow you and really lean into your work?
Well, I'm on Twitter at Dr_Neon Carter, and also the same on Instagram. I'm not a heavy social media person, but I am there, and I'm happy to announce I'm a Good Authority fellow, so I'll be writing columns for the Good Authority coming up in the next few months.
Well, we always appreciate having you with us, Dr. Carter. Please, please, please come back again soon and finish the semester strong. I know what it's like when your eyes are
barely here.
Rest, from grading all your papers.
Exactly.
But your students and your campus community are lucky to have you, especially in these challenging times.
Thank you.
When we come forward in our next hour, we are continuing to dig into the headlines. We have Mr. Sonnenschein, who is going to be joining us to help dig into these headlines. Look, you have Kyle Rittenhouse on college campuses sort of sparking protests. You also have President Biden, who is planning a visit to Morehouse College for commencement, and that's sparking some protests. We're going to get Mr. Sonnenschein's view on President Biden's commencement dress that is imminent, and so many other headlines. Don't go anywhere. When we come forward, you're listening to Areva Martin in real time on KBLA Talk 1580.